All right, we're talking iron versus driver here with Dave Phillips, co-founder of TPI, good friend of ours. We know that the driver is a specialist club.
It is.
And I think a lot of golfers think it's a swing.
Yep.
Iron, driver, it's just a swing.
Yep.
But there's so many differences, and we're seeing it a lot more with this technology. Let's just go through the driver first of all, maybe,
Sure.
and why it is a specialist club, especially in the setup.
The driver, obviously, it is a specialty club. You're going to hit it maybe 8 times around. Some of us may hit it 10 times around, but with par 3s and shorter par 4s. So you're not really using it that much. Yet it's the one that gets the power, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you go to driving ranges and they'll warm up with their wedges, but that driver head cover comes off, they're going for it.
Pretty much straight away.
Yeah, so
no warm up.
I think there's a lot of information today out there on driver and maximizing speed, and you got to hit up on the golf ball, and the launch angle has to be right. And that's what radar and so on has shown us over the years, that launch angles, controlling your spin rate, the strike is very important. But I think the simplicity side is most people don't know that there's a setup difference between an iron and a driver. Mm-hmm. And I think you need to know that because I think it's extremely important. Yeah. One is on a tee. And that ball on a tee, the club is ascending and hitting up on the golf ball, right? And one is on the ground. Mm-hmm. And that we tend to hit more down on the golf ball. But let's get into the real big setup difference. So whenever we're using a driver, obviously where stance tends to be wider, ball tends to be more forward in our stance. We step back, we've got the ball on a tee, and generally the club is working from low to high as we hit this golf ball. So here's the key with the driver that I see that a lot of people mess up. They set up like they're hitting an iron, right? Because they hit more irons. And so they put the driver down. They've either got the ball too far back or their angles aren't where they should be. And a lot of times we see them with their hips relatively level. They might tilt their shoulders. You know, some people are talking about force and ground force today. They may be leaning a little bit left, or they may try and be getting the left too much. And that is a killer for the driver. So the number one thing you need to understand on the driver is where you should set up in relation to your center. So when I set up, if I place this kind of right in the middle of me, say this was my center of mass, right? Right where my belt is right there, right in the middle of my stance. And if I tilt my pelvis this way, or I get into that what people call the K position, you can notice I've actually moved it to the left of center. That's the killer setup for a driver. Everybody thinks, oh, I need to tilt it so I hit it high. The more you tilt it and push your pelvis this way, the more you've moved your center of mass over there. And that creates all kinds of issues with the backswing. If I move this too far forward with a driver that's on the tee, a lot of times as they rotate, they're actually too far left. And then what we'll see is they go left, and now they're way left, and then they spin out and back up, and they'll throw their angles early, and they can hit it left, they can hold the face and hit it right. We see a lot of things. So here's what the very best do, and I would count, you know, Justin Thomas does this really well. If this is his center, what he does is imagine if I stood up, literally moved over here a little bit, and then sat back down. If you look at the center, it's almost like his lead leg is a little longer or has a little bit more angle than his trail leg. So his pelvis, or the center of his belt, is actually behind the center of my stance with the driver. In other words, he's already loaded. We talk about loading into your trailhead so you can go left. Good drives of the ball are already there. So from here, they don't have to move off the ball that much. They're already there. So what they do is they simply, from this position, turn. And as they turn, once they get the club to here, the majority of their weight is already the maximized.
A lot of people watching this would think, well, I want to make sure by the top of the backswing, that's what I'm getting that full load into that right leg.
Not happening.
That's not happening at all, is it?
No. Basically, what happens with the best players in the world is usually by the time that club, where they've got the lead arm parallel to the ground, the maximum, they've already maximized how much weight they've moved.
Interesting.
The minute the club starts to go, or their lead arm starts to go above that, they are already moving into their lead side. So the movement happens way earlier than we recognize, right? But the number one thing in setup for you to know at home is, I like a little bit of tilt, but I don't want to tilt where my belt buckle gets in front of center. What I want you to set up like this and then just tilt a little bit. So you feel that maybe 60% on the back foot. And then rapidly, the minute you start to take this club away and a force is applied, you're going to see this go, especially on our force plate. This will be 85, 90% where the club is here.
Straight away.
Just past their foot. So by the time it starts to go up, they're already getting into position to deliver the maximum force into the ground.
What about the real long hitters?
The real long hitters, they start there, but a lot of them actually go this way before they go this way, right? So again, you can be one of these players that you'll see these guys, you know, they'll shuffle their feet, they'll push so that they can go.
Like a Justin James.
You'll see them stand up, and then they'll get vertical. And you'll see a lot of players say, hey, if you want to maximize your speed, you should stand up and get this club as high as you can. Yes, if we're talking long drive and you need to maximize speed, you can try that.
Yeah. We spoke earlier about a drill that you thought would be really good. It was like the penguin drill or something like that. Setup.
Set up like a penguin. Put the ball right in the middle of your stance, right? And then from here, leave this foot where it is. You know it's off the inside of your heel. And I want you to pick this leg up and land on it, right? Land on it. And you can see there, I look like this leg is longer and this leg's a little softer, right? And I don't have this excessive tilt.
No.
I don't want this. It also tends to flatten the shoulders out this way. So all I'm gonna do is set up like a penguin. I'm literally picking this foot up. I'm landing over here. And then from there, I feel like I can wind up into the top of my backswing and start moving the other way.
I love this as well, talking about landing and things like that, because when people are confused on posture, for example, they kind of go really straight and they get the club out here and they bend forward and then they try and bend their legs. If you just land your legs, you often just find what the amount of leg flex you want anyway. So
I agree.
I love that. I love that.
I like
that. So we've got a penguin into that feel of landing that leg is kind of landing it around about that 60%.
That's right. That's right.
Iron.
Iron is a little bit different in that iron is a ball on the ground, not on a tee. So on the iron, you've probably heard of our low point. So low point, think of it as the center of my pelvis, right? Center of my chest, some people like to use. But on an iron, I'm trying to move this into my lead leg a little bit earlier so that when I push, I can deliver my angles into the back of the golf ball, right? So you'll see a lot of players with the iron a little bit more 50-50. Some of them tend to be, some lean a little bit left and stay left. You can stay a little left on the shorter irons, but don't get the golf ball back. You need the golf ball forward so that you can move into the golf ball. I see too many players trying to get compression in their lead, you know, their low point in front of the ball, and they start moving the golf ball back. Well, yeah, my low point's in front of the ball already, but what happens is they tend to start, oh, I got to get behind it a little bit, then they sway, or they stay here and now they get left too early. So now they start to go, oh my God, I'm way over here, but the club's way back here, and you'll start to see this one. You'll start to see throwing it, and that's when they can hit it to the left, they can catch it thin, fat, all those types of shots, right? So the setup really is just basically 50-50, you know, and I love shuffling the feet a little bit. I also like picking up the toes and just rocking where I can feel the balls of my feet. So just to get you in that athletic position.
Drive a backswing a little bit more as well.
Drive a backswing and then we'll go transition into the drive.
Perfect.
I am winding, I'm coiling up into my backswing, right? But what's happened is if I get to the top of my backswing and I feel all my weight, it's too late.
Too late.
Because by now, the best players in the world, and we've seen this, is by right about there, 85 to 90% of their weight is in this leg.
By the time the club is just there.
There.
Wow.
Right? And the minute it sets up, it's already started unloading. So they are, or even though it may look like they're this at the top, they have already done this, and they have already pushed their maximum force, ground force, into the ground when they're at the top of the backswing in most cases. Right?
Let's go iron backswing then.
Iron backswing, we're a little bit more 50-50. So from here, you'll hear a lot about players staying more stacked or stable. And what I like the thought for an iron is winding the rib cage. I see a lot of players talking about you need to get a bigger shoulder turn. This is shoulder turn. Shoulders don't turn, right? Shoulders swing in front of me, but that's not shoulder turn. What you want is the rib cage. You want to wind that rib cage up and extend as best as you can. Some of us are very flexible and we can get our arms up in the air, some of us aren't. If this moves too much this way, especially with an iron, and then I wind it up, my spine starts to look like this.
So now we're talking a sway and a reverse spine.
And a reverse spine. I hate that. We hate that.
It's game over.
It's game over. If you think about the buttons on your shirt and your belt, I always want to feel like I'm turning my rib cage and I'm getting the buttons slightly in front of the belt. right? So that my spine is always tilted slightly away. I don't want to be there. So this is the danger of this stacked position. A lot of people are like, well, I want to stay still and I want to rotate, and then they look like this at the top of their backswing. And then if they go from here, they get steep. So what they usually do is they feel where their spine is and they need to get out of this position. So to get out, they've got to go this way, and now they're late.
Yeah.
Their arms are way behind them and they're hitting it thin and top shots all day long.
Okay. Let's go into then, let's transition downswing, driver.
I'm going to wind up to the top of my backswing, get in my backswing position, and now that move right there, I've put my maximum force back into the ground. Right? So what I've done is I've put the knee back to where it came from, not my hip. With irons, this is the difference, with an iron, okay, from the top of the backswing, when I go to the top of the backswing of my iron, we want to move our low point in front of the ball. So what happens with the iron is the lead shoulder stays down and I move everything back into the lead side. So notice.
Impact line,
yeah. Put a line there. With an iron, I would look like this. I would go to the top of my backswing, and then I'm going to move my butt cheek and my leg till I get there. And that's going to get my arms down in front of me. Then I push to deliver it with a forward-leaning shaft.
And what I love about this, and we talk about this, we call this the impact line, and it's literally, you are all up against this with all of your left side when you're striking the golf ball with that iron.
That's it.
Love it. That's going to give you that compression, that low point after the golf ball, that downward hit that we're after.
That's exactly what you want with an iron. Okay. That differs from this guy, okay? Because if I did that with this guy, what would happen is this, is I load up, but if I do the same thing as an iron, I get this over here, I've steepened the shaft too much. And any of you that like smother it or pop it up or pull it left, you're getting everything over to that line, and that's not what the best drivers of the ball do.
Dave actually called it idiot marks on the top. I've never heard anyone say that before, but like, that's perfect. Yeah. That's my driver. There's no idiot marks if they were
I was just checking. Everybody borrows mine, and mine's covered, and they think it's me.
Exactly.
All right, so then I load up here with the driver, top of the backswing with the driver. What happens here is I move, I spread, this is kind of like that Sam Snead squat.
Yeah.
I move my knee back, right? Now, I've already pushed into the ground. Most people can't see this.
That's happened way before this almost.
It's happened way before. So basically now what's happening is equal and as opposite. The more I push in the ground, the more the ground pushes back. And as the ground starts pushing back, it's pushing me back this way so that I can launch it. So a lot of times with the driver, players don't close this gap, right? Because they're putting the brakes on. It's a much longer shaft, and I got to get these angles out so that I can deliver with a nice lead straight arm. I don't want to look like this, right? So that way I'm maximizing, I'm getting everything, all the energy out into the club. If you look here on the screen, if I show you this number right here, 82.53% body weight in the trail leg. By the time club's parallel to the ground, right? Watch this number, the next number, 29. He's already going down. So what does that mean? So he is unweighting that leg. He is already starting to move into that. Does it look like that? No. This is this like undercover golf. Like this is what's happening under the hood. He is now at the top of his backswing, which looks loaded, right? He is now 40% on here. So now you see that gap between his pelvis and this lead knee. Watch as he comes back down. He has now produced his maximum vertical force. This graph over here. Yeah. His maximum vertical force has occurred. Look where the club head is.
Behind his head.
Max vertical. He's 69% in the trail leg now. So watch as he comes down into impact. By the time he's got to get rid of those angles, he's pushing back, 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 back so that he can create space to get rid of those angles. And that's just a frame or so before impact. And you're at 84% back on the trail.
Let's get you back in here. Let's see if we can actually understand this.
So by the time I get to here with our student, he's already started moving, getting ready to deliver this club, right? He's maximizing. So what you see is this knee gets back over as I start down. And now from here, this is push, which gets the lead shoulder to work up, and that gets the handle to work up, which gets the club head to work out. So you see the handle go from low to high, and that's how you hit up on the ball.
But what is something that anyone watching this can do to help them with this and get those forces happening a little bit earlier?
Anytime you can feel things, a lot of times it will express itself. Now, everybody's feels can be different. In fact, you know, like I remember once having Padraig Harrington in here, and you know, he's like, this is what I feel. And we looked on the graphs and we're like, that's funny because you just did the complete opposite to what you told us.
How did he say that?
He actually took it great.
Okay,
he's like,
good.
well, that's me. And I'm like, okay, but that's important for me as a coach because now I know his feels are actually different. So we often talk about what's feel and what is real. If you can just start with some of these step drills, keep the club out in front of you. Keep the club out in front of you and let it go. Let your feet react to the movement, right? So just start doing some of this every day where you're winding up and unwinding. It's almost like dancing, you know? You can start with your feet together. This is another great one for the downswing, is as the club swings past my feet, step. We call this step change of direction, right? So this is a great for those over the toppers. Just step. And just start doing this and just start winding yourself. Start getting used to the step early. Look how early. My arm is there. I've already stepped.
Yeah. We see what this left foot does as a result of everything you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I think about like a Ludwig Oberg. We think about where his left foot goes. It's obviously coming back. Maybe just go through that again. I'll give you an impact line.
In golf, the legs drive the arms. That sounds crazy, right? But we know this from looking at the data. It's hard to do this, but this is why you see so many of these players. This lead foot is either moved or it's jumped or it's off the ground, right? So what's basically happening is when they get to this point where they're at the top of the backswing, remember, they've already pushed into the ground. The ground is starting to push back. What makes this club come down is they are pushing into the ground, which is accelerating the club. So this is why so many of these players, the legs are driving the arms. So if there's a drill you wanted to do, that would be a great one. It's on the backswing, I squat a little bit, right, as my arms go up, and on the downswing, I push to drive my arms down. And if you do this right, you'll actually end up over here, pointing that way.
Okay, iron, here you go.
Iron, yeah, so iron is different. So what happens differently with an iron is some of these same forces apply. They load the trail. They're still applying force really early, but here's what happens with the iron. The lead shoulder works a little bit more down, and you'll often see their head go down more, and they pushing into the ground, right? They're moving that low point in front of the ball so that now when I deliver to the ball, I hit ball first and then I catch the ground, right? With the iron, you'll see more of this. You'll actually see the lower body still goes first, but the lead shoulder stays down and both get over to that line. And that steepens the shaft, holds angle, and now I deliver it, and boom, that's where you get that forward leaning shaft. One of the biggest errors that people make, and this is partly on us as golf instructors, is we don't teach you the difference between setup and impact. If this is setup with an iron, this is impact. This is setup, this is impact.
This in itself is a phenomenal drill.
Setup, yep, impact. Then take a short swing to here. Now you know where impact is, go to impact. And all of a sudden you'll start to go, oh, that's how you hit a golf ball. Boom. And you'll get a forward leaning shaft, you'll get compression, the ball will go up in the air, and your game will change forever.
Yeah. I think there's so many good things in here. I love the penguin. I love the landing of the leg there. I think that's really good. We've got the impact fix as well. We've got the flow, like the stepping, changing directions. We call it thunder stamp or thunder step. We call it. You did that drill such a long time ago, before you probably knew all of this stuff.
We did, yeah.
But you knew there was something in that was creating that flow and that freedom and those feels, the feels and ultimately longer shots. And you obviously can now validate it with this here.
And that's the beautiful thing about having a lab like we have and the access to great players in the world like we do.
Guys, hope you enjoyed that. If you want to find out more, check out meandmygolf.com if you want to see more great videos that can help you with your game. Dave, thank you so much.
You got it, buddy.
As always, thanks man.
You got it.
See you soon.